the opening webinar, which is the first out of the 7 parts that will follow, with the title, Positioning TVET Colleges During the Pandemic. So our webinar is 2 parts, and as a result, it is going to take a bit longer than the other webinars in the series. The others will last 1.5 hours. This webinar will be up to 2 hours. So, having said that, my suggestion is grab a cup of coffee, sit back, enjoy, and engage. Okay, I will just point out a few housekeeping rules. The first one is that we need to ensure that our mics are muted when we are not speaking, and please be encouraged to make use of the chat to engage in the conversations. Number 2 is that we need to try and not interrupt other speakers, and always remember to raise our virtual hands when we want to speak. Then overall, it is my hope that we are going to create and enjoy a conducive environment where there will be mutual respect amongst the panelists and the participants alike. So, without further ado, I would like to turn the time over to Dr. Leslie Powell, the Research Chair for Youth, Unemployment, Employability, and Empowerment at Nelson Mandela University, who initiated and actually led the organization of the webinar series that we are opening today. She will do a welcoming, opening, acknowledgements, and a conceptual introduction of the webinar series. I would also like to put in an apology on her behalf for her voice. She's having a throat problem, and also in terms of her background, where you might realize that she is not using the virtual, she might not be using the virtual background, you see, for this webinar, because she's having power problems in her area. I think we are all familiar with these load sheddings now. All right, over to you, Dr. Leslie Powell.
Thank you very much, Francis. Thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, welcome to this, our first TVET webinar series. COVID has pushed us into so many things that we never thought we'd be doing, like wearing masks all the time and engaging in social distancing. And this webinar series is the first webinar series that we've ever held in our TVET sector in South Africa. As Francis said, I lost my voice last night, which is very difficult for me. And those of you who know me, it's a really difficult thing for me not to be able to speak. So if you're struggling to hear me, then please just send a message in the chat and I'll try and use more volume if possible. We have registered for this event 252 people at this point. And, you know, I was thinking that Christopher Wench in his book on education and work noted that anyone interested in promoting and understanding vocational education is generally thought to be a Philistine. If we were to believe that, then we'd have to say that there are 250 Philistines gathered here today. But we know that we're not Philistines because we understand that vocational education matters. It matters because it's so core to being human. It matters that we can do things that are meaningful to us. It matters that we can gain respect from the things that we do, that we can gain pride and dignity from these things that we do, and that we are able, through these things that we can do, to earn our livelihood. We who are gathered here today, we know that our TVET college sector matters. It matters to us because it is where the majority of our post-school youth should be going. And it matters because our TVET sector is in many ways the frontier that separates a young person from unemployment. We came together to work towards this webinar series because we were really worried about the silence around TVET. Our media was filled with articles, debates about whether the school should open, whether the university should open, particularly during COVID lockdown levels 5 and 4. People were debating what opening the schools would mean for teachers. There were fears that it would put our teachers at risk. And we asked ourselves, but what about our TVET college lecturers? What does it mean for them? People were debating what opening the universities might mean for our students. But what about our TVET college students, we asked? What does it mean for them? There were concerns that opening the universities and opening the schools would exacerbate inequalities. And again, we asked, but what does this mean for TVET? So we came together to put this webinar series, to put it together so that we, all 252 of us who registered for this webinar series, can break the silence. We wanted to come together as a community of TVET policymakers, a community of scholars, researchers, TVET college managers, lecturers, and student staff. And we wanted to address this silence together in community and to open the conversation on the implications of COVID-19 for our TVET college sector in the short term, the medium term, and the long term. Colleagues, it's my privilege to do the formal welcome and acknowledgements and to set the background for this webinar series. When preparing for this last night, I realized that there were just too many people to welcome and acknowledge. And so I prepared a presentation, which we'll screen share. But because we have load shedding, I can't do it. So Tabu's going to do it for me. Tabu, will you just pull up the presentation for me, please, Tabu? Thank you very much. So first, we'd like to thank our acting DDG for being here today and for supporting this event. Iruna, thank you very much. You're welcomed and your support for this event is acknowledged. We want to welcome our DHET Research Division, our DHET TVET branch, and also our DHET TVET regional managers. Thank you so much, college, for all the support in bringing this series to fruition. The colleagues were hands-on, rolled up their sleeves, assisted with everything from the conception document to the invitations to absolutely at every step of the way we walk this together. We have with us today our DVC Engagement and Transformation, Professor Andre Keert. This work falls into the Engagement and Transformation portfolio at Nelson Mandela University. And it sits within this bigger vision of our university, which is to be a university that works not only for its communities, but also with its communities. And our TVET community is a very important community for us. So welcome to Professor Keert. Our college council chairs and college council members, welcome to you. We look forward to engaging in the debate and discussion and hearing your points of view as we move forward through this 7-part series. Our principals, our deputy principals, our college HODs, and our lecturers, this series talks directly to you and to the challenges that you are and have been facing daily during this pandemic. You know, we've been talking to a lot of the principals during, over the last few months, and a lot of the college managers. And one of the principals was saying to us that trying to keep the institution together during this time is like trying to mount a mountain, and it just never stops, and you just keep climbing. And I think we recognize the college staff, our college lecturers, and our college management teams and principals with the extremely challenging, hard work that you've been doing over the last period in keeping the sector together. Our Eastern Cape Research Roundtable, our close partners in this event, our friends in the province, in our work in the province, we welcome you, all of our colleagues from across all 8 colleges. Our Eastern Cape TVET Research Roundtable is responsible for today's webinar, and Tuleti will tell you a little bit more about the structure later on in the program. We have representatives from our student organizations present. We'd like especially to welcome the representatives from our student organizations. In Student in My Book, we quote an author, Cook Sather, who argued that there is something amiss, there is something deeply wrong with building and rebuilding an entire system without consulting at any point those it is meant to serve. The TVET college sector is here to serve you and to serve your future. And at the end of the day, over the next few months, we are all of us in these webinars talking about how best and how better we can do that. We want to hear from you. We want to get your response, get your perspective, and we look forward to your active engagements in these seminars. We must hear from you. We need to hear from you. So please feel free to participate, and you are welcome. A warm welcome to our TVET scholars and our TVET researchers. There are really too many of you here to welcome individually, but know that we are looking forward to hearing your thoughts and having you participate in the debates as we move forward. We especially want to welcome our international colleagues. You will see Prof. Simon McGrath, Prof. Volker Ledekant, and Prof. James Avis on the program in the 7th webinar. To our colleagues from the continent, particularly our colleagues from Sub-Saharan Africa, welcome. A special and warm welcome and acknowledgement to the heads of the research entities. You would have seen from the invitation that the partners who worked in this include the TVET, the Research Division and the TVET branch, the Institute for Post-School Studies, IPS at UWC, the Center for Research and Education and Labour, REL, the Human Sciences Research Council, the Eastern Cape TVET Research Roundtable. A special welcome and acknowledgement to the heads of the research entities who are our partners in pulling this webinar series together. Dr. Prisha Ramsarab from REAL, Joy Papier from Institute of Post-School Studies at UWC, Dr. Adam Cooper from HSRC, and also our research chairs, Prof. Stephen Elias and Prof. Joy Papier. The way in which we structured this work was that we put together a working group, and the working group was chaired by Francis Muronda, and I really want to congratulate Francis. I think all of us who worked on this will commend him for the absolutely fabulous job that he did at holding this together. Tabo, could you please move to the next slide? These are the people who participated in the working group. So chaired by Francis Muronda, we had representatives from all of the entities. You will see that quite a few of these representatives are our postgraduate students, and in many ways, our postgraduate students, supported by the heads of the entities, ran with the ball. The very fact that we could put an event together like this and that our students could in fact run with this is a moment to acknowledge that we have the quality of students and that we have the mass of students. I know for those of us who've been part of the sector for many years, 10, 15 years ago, we would not have had this number of students that we could pull on to compile this event. So we need to acknowledge this moment in TVET in South Africa, and we need to congratulate our students for the absolutely excellent job that they did in pulling this together. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Nelson Mandela team. While Francis was the front person chairing the working group, the rest of the team was his support, keeping all the nuts and bolts together. Special thanks here to Sean Tini, Janine Sharrock, Rochelle Brass, Karen Sneyman, Ezekiel, Majola, Natutu Maginga, and Debbie Matthias. Thank you so much, guys, for stepping in and picking up and just supporting Francis through this process. This is the first time we've put together a webinar series of this kind as a team. It's the first time we've done it as partners. Besides acknowledging the commitment to the work, I want to acknowledge the joy with which the work was done. The amount of laughter, the amount of fun, the amount of virtual hugging that was done as we moved along this pathway. To be honest, if I think about it now, and if I knew now how much work would be involved in this, I think we would have stepped forward in a much less gung-ho way. I'm glad we didn't though, and I'm glad we've done it. but it's been a full team effort to pull this off. I want to acknowledge our speakers, but Tabu, could you go to the next slide, please? It would take me, as you can see, more than the 10 minutes I've been allocated to introduce and recognize all our speakers. Some of these faces will be recognized to you, other of these faces are new to you. We'll get to know them and we'll be introduced to them in each of the webinars where they are presenting. I'd also like to introduce our moderators to you. Tabu, next slide, please. So these are our moderators. Our moderators participated in a moderator training on Wednesday, and there's been learning for all of us at every step of the way, how to moderate a webinar, how to do this better, how to pull it all together. And I just want to acknowledge the hard work that the moderators have done, because it is really the moderators who are pulling the individual programs for each of the sessions together. So thank you to the moderators. Talbot, could you please return to page 1, please, of the presentation? Go 1 page back, please, Tabu. Another page, there we go. I want to thank the HSRC technical team. There was a moment in organizing the webinar series that we realized that we just were not coping with it, and reached out to Adam Cooper at the HSRC, and but Adam, we don't know what to do. And Adam was like, let us manage the HSRC the technical aspects for you. And the HSRC technical team jumped in at quite a late stage. Thank you so much to Ms. Arlene Rossman. Thank you, Arlene. You have been absolutely phenomenal. And to be honest, I really dread to think of what a mess we would have made of this if you weren't there to help us avoid the mistakes. Thank you also to Tabo Mpelo, who has been managing all the ICT aspects, who does the training with all of us the day before the webinar, to make sure we're confident and that we know what we're doing. So thank you very much for that. I would also like to thank Nelson Mandela University's SRAC. SRAC stands for Strategic Resource Allocation Committee. Nelson Mandela's SRAC committee allocated funding to support this work, and it is this funding that has made it possible for us to take the lead in driving this event forward, and which will assist us in producing a report from the webinar series. We will provide more information on the report once the TVET webinar working group has decided on the format and the approach that they would like to take, but there will be a report coming out from the webinar. I see there are quite a few messages coming through, people asking for recordings. The sessions are being recorded and the recordings will be made available. They will be going up on the Nelson Mandela University website, on the chair's website. And we will send links to all the partners who will also distribute them and possibly put them up on their own websites. When we started this process, Taba, can you go to the invitation slide, please, the overview slide, which the program, please, for all 7 of the webinars. There we go. Thank you. When we started this process, we wanted to look at the implications of TVET, of COVID-19 for TVET in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. So you will see that our program includes a combination of this. In terms of the short term, we'll be talking about what remote learning might mean for students, what remote learning might mean for our teaching staff, our lecturing staff, the capacity and the capability of the colleges to cope with remote learning. We'll also be talking about, Joy Papier will be talking about social distancing and finishing the academic year, and what this might mean for college lecturers and college students, and what the implications are pedagogically and what pedagogic possibilities there might be. We wanted to talk about what this means for the sector in the medium term. So what does losing a term of students, for example, mean for participation rates going forward? What does this mean for the funding of the sector? What does what would the extension of the academic year mean for NSFAS? So we have more questions than we have answers, but we wanted to come together as a community and begin to, at the very least, ask those questions. We know that within these 7 sessions, we're not going to answer all of them, but we think if we can capture all the questions and if we can begin to identify what the right questions are, perhaps we've gone a few steps further. We wanted to know what it means for us in the long term. While COVID has been a huge challenge, and it's opened many challenges to our country, to the world actually, and to the sector, it has at the same time opened an opportunity for us to reimagine TVET and to ask ourselves anew, what might be the purpose of TVET? What might be the purpose of TVET in our context? And what might be the purpose of TVET in our new post-COVID-19 landscape? Or to draw on Yael and Stephanie Alais's abstract, to open up debate and dialogue on what it might mean for us to be building back better. So in our 4 to 6 seminars, we engage with some of these longer term issues. We look at the future of work and the implications it might have for South African TVET colleges. We look at Steph and Yael will be engaging critically with some of the theoretical concepts that underpin our thinking and the way in which COVID is pushing us in terms of how we think about those concepts. Concepts such as skill, work, occupation, qualification. Adam Cooper and Matthias will talk about the movement of learners between the informal sector and TVET. And the last webinar of the series, which is run by the University of Nottingham, Professor James Avis and Professor Simon McGrath will draw on the debates and discussions held during the webinar series to share some of the international comparisons. I didn't list Simon and the University of Nottingham as a partner when I mentioned the partners earlier, and I want to apologize for this oversight to you, Simon. In a way, we work so closely together that sometimes it's almost taken for granted, because we are engaged as co-authors and we are also engaged as co-thinkers, and I'm an associate prof of Nottingham as well. So my apologies for not including the University of Nottingham, but the University of Nottingham has been an active partnership from the beginning of the webinar series, both in terms of energy, in terms of conception, and in terms of participation. So these webinars have been conceptualized as a series. They work together, and yet they hang loosely together, but they do work together, and we're hoping that we can develop a dialogue and take it forward session by session. I'm looking forward to today's webinar. I'm looking forward to hearing the speakers. I'm looking forward to sharing some of our own work in the 3rd webinar. And I'm looking forward to seeing you and engaging the debates as we move forward in the webinar series. I will shortly hand over to Francis Muronda, who will introduce our acting DDG, Aruna Singh. But before I do that, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that these past few months have not been easy. We have, many of us, if not all of us, lost family and lost friends to this virus. The TVET colleges have not been immune to that. I know from our engagements with the colleges over the past few weeks that the colleges have lost managers, have lost lecturing staff, and have lost students to this virus. While we are talking in this webinar series about the ways in which we can build back better, we need to acknowledge the grief that we feel, and we need to recognize the contributions that our fallen colleagues have made to our sector. I would like to ask that we take a moment in silence to honor their lives and to honor their contribution. To our fallen colleagues, this webinar series is dedicated to you and to your memory, in the hope that we can build back and that we can build back better. Please take a moment of silence now by switching off your screens. I'll come back, I'll call you back in, and then I will hand over to Francis. Thank you, Colin. Colleagues, thank you very much for that. Francis, I'm going to hand the chair over to you now. Is that all right?
Yes, it's all right. Thank you, Les.
All right.
All right. Okay, so I would like to thank again Dr. Leslie Powell for the enlightening and actually entertaining, and also at the same time, so comprehensive remarks that you made during the opening acknowledgements and the conceptual introduction of the webinar series. So now to move forward, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure for me to introduce to you the Department of Higher Education and Training's Deputy Director General, Acting Deputy Director General for the TVET sector, Ms. Aruna Singh. And I'd like to believe that it is at the Department of Higher Education and Training, at the National Department, where I think the weight of the whole South African TVET sector is felt. So Ms. Aruna Singh served for the greater part of her tenure, which is around 10 years, as a director in the curriculum development and support in the Department of Higher Education and Training. Ms. Singh is currently the Acting Deputy Director General for TVET, Technical and Vocational Education and Training, and also serves as the Director for the TVET programs and qualifications. She holds a BA degree, a university higher diploma in education, a BA honors degree in psychology, a master's in business administration, and started out on a PhD in curriculum studies at the University of North Texas. Ms. Aruna Singh, the floor is yours now.
Okay, thank you very much, Program Director, and thanks a lot to Dr. Powell, whom we just heard just now. For now, I will have my video on because I think that's what you want. Unfortunately, I don't have the backdrop for technical reasons. But if for some reason, Program Director, I find that you are not hearing me well enough, or down the line I can't hear people well enough, I will just have to turn off the video because that seems to have happened. Can you hear me clearly from where I am now? Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes, Aruna, very clear, very clear.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we are fine for now. So thank you very much and good afternoon, everybody. I see you have a very good contingent. Tell me, am I the host for now, because there are a whole lot of people coming through asking to be admitted. Must I continue to admit them? That is coming through on my screen.
No, Aruna, there's a team of people who are admitting. No, Aruna, there's a team of people who are admitting people. You've been made co-host just to allow you to speak freely and to share presentations.
Okay. All right. I don't have a presentation, so, I will just speak to the remit that I've been given, and I hope that will be sufficient. So, I was given the topic that I should speak to repositioning TVET colleges during the pandemic. And to tell you the truth, given what we've been through in the last 5 months, I could more or less write a book about this. Because from day one, when lockdown happened in March, on March 27th, I think it was, to where we are now, it's been pretty much a roller coaster ride for the country. But if we speak about the TVET sector in particular, everybody in the whole value chain will tell you just how demanding, just how challenging it's been. Overall, just up front, it might sound a little immodest, but I must say that the TVET colleges at the end of it all have really delivered a sterling. I'll tell you why, because I want to go through it quite systematically from where we were to where we are now. When we went into the lockdown period, we are obviously still not impacted by COVID-19 as we were by July. And that context is important, because the moment we went into lockdown 5 and then subsequently lockdown 4, what we were expected to do was to immediately get plans into place to start supporting students remotely, to ensure that some learning was beginning to happen, even though we know what lockdown levels 5 and then level 4 meant. There was an absolute restriction on movement. The coordination was extremely difficult. Students could not be coordinated from any single point. Staff had to work from home. And as we already know, that we were caught out in the sense that the tools of trade were not available for everybody who needed to work from home. So it all happened very suddenly, but the responsibilities remained huge. It was a given that the colleges should continue to be in contact with their students and to be able to support them through some amount of learning. So what this meant is that from day one, I would say right from the first week of April, we've had to start planning towards the reopening of colleges, even though we had absolutely no idea when that would happen. But at the political level and certainly at the bureaucratic level, that was a necessity. We had to constantly be doing plans, doing scenario planning, and to kind of second guess which way the country would go. And the imperative at that time, I must say, the whole focus, you know, many would be aware that the hashtag that was coined for the minister for all of his media briefings was saving lives, saving the academic year. And I must say, till today, we are driven by that motto in everything that we do and everything that we ask ourselves and the decisions that we take. We, first of all, of course, lives have to be prioritized, but at the same time, we have to be seen to be saving the academic year for our students, because that has huge implications. So right from the beginning, it was about how do we plan to ensure that we move towards preparing our colleges to be safe environments for our students and for the staff, of course. But preparing the colleges to be safe environments meant that staff had to make a contribution. And I must say it was the first about 6 weeks that we aggressively focused on that. We put minimum standards in place, the protocols of the Department of Higher Education, the protocols that were developed by Higher Health for the whole PSET system. All of those were being workshopped, they were being advocated, they were put into a monitoring tool. At the operational level, colleges were being monitored to see whether the fundamentals were in place to ensure the basic safety. And that revolved around the absolute basics were around, as we know, daily screening, sanitizing, and referral systems, putting strong referral systems in place so that when detections are made, the institutions must know exactly what they have to do. So with that in mind, preparing the institutions, we had to take a decision by when would we allow for students to come back to colleges. Now, this is where the colleges are quite different. Particularly from universities, because we have shorter periods of study. In other words, we run trimesters, which are, you know, three learning periods in a single academic year, and semesters, which means 2 semesters in the year, and we have the NCV, which is our year program. Now, everything hinges around the examinations, how we are able to schedule examinations, because at the end of the day, that is what we must prepare for. Students can be back at the college, they can be learning, but the whole question is, when do we write exams from the student's perspective? So the academic year had to be worked backwards from making a determination on when we would be able to host examinations for our TVET students. I don't want to go into the details of that, but our revised academic calendar eventually came to be that we would run, and we are on track to do that. We would run 2 trimesters. Trimester 1 has just been done, and we prepare to enroll students for trimester 2 from this week onwards. And then semester 2 had to be sacrificed, which means for the 2020 academic year, we will not have semester 2. Students who complete semester 1 in October with their exams will return next year to do semester 2 in their studies. But the NCV students who registered at the beginning of this year would complete their exams going into the middle of December, which is somewhat longer. And I must say, it is a struggle cramming in everything that the curriculum requires, particularly on the side of the practicals, to ensure that the curriculum requirements, the assessment requirements, and so forth have been met. So that just gives you a bit of a background in saying what we've had to deal with broadly in the TVET sector. But more specifically, what we've learned very early, all of us as citizens, ordinary citizens, is that COVID-19 knew no boundaries. Nobody was protected against it, irrespective of race, class, creed, religion, culture, nationality, whatever the case might have been. And a lot depended on individual commitment, to ensure we kept ourselves safe and did everything we needed to do at an individual level to ensure our own safety, first of all. But what it also meant is every one of us had to also do things to protect others in our environment, such as the aged, young people, and those that we're in close contact with. So the entire preparation towards TVET colleges in 2 months was towards opening, which we did. In principle, we committed to returning students to colleges, college campuses in June with lockdown. Sorry, the principle was not June. The principle was whenever the president would have announced lockdown level 3, the planning would go into the return of students would be programmed with dates and so forth. And as we know now, that students started returning in extremely staggered cohorts from the 10th of June. And because it was highly staggered, I would just say in short that by the 27th of July, from the 10th of June up to the 27th of July, all cohorts of students had returned to colleges. Now, we also know that as things unfolded in the country during this period, going into August, we experienced the peak of our infections. And of course, our mortality rate also peaked during those months. In those months, our colleges had their campuses open. They received students. It was extremely, as Dr. Powell mentioned, the reports from college managers have indicated just how turbulent and challenging it was. On a daily basis, they've had to re-strategize, reorganize. As a department, we gave them that flexibility. If you find lives at risk, if the day cannot be managed, if the week cannot be managed, work with your regional managers and close down campuses so that you do what you have to do to protect the environment and then prepare again to receive students. What that meant is that colleges have had to be in constant contact with their students all the time to get that messaging out. So this brings me to the next area. This whole bit that I've spoken about had to do with preparing the colleges to be safe environments. And I dare say, even as we speak here, the colleges have been. We've tracked the data very closely in terms of the infections for students in particular. And if we compare them with the national norms, they have compared very favorably. What it says at the end of the day is that the college campuses have not been risk environments for our students. If anything, they have been comparatively safe. At the last take, when we did the count, the number of student infections, given, you know, the close to just over 300,000 students we're able to count up that were registered from the beginning of the year and who would have come in on a staggered basis, the infection rate was sitting at just under 300 for students. So, you know, we consider that as a 0 point some odd % of the total population, which is favorable or undesirable, but still favorable on a comparative basis. Now, the key questions have been around teaching and learning. How has that challenged us in the TVET system? And we know the TVET system has struggled with making the giant leap into a new era of pedagogy and so forth. Our plans right from the beginning were never premised on online learning, because we knew that the colleges did not have the wherewithal, both in terms of infrastructure and in terms of the expertise at the, you know, within the teaching workforce to do that. So it would have been an unrealistic expectation. The tools of trade were not available either. So we never premised the support to students on online learning. What we did do was begin to work with what was possible and what colleges said they could use based on what had already been possible, made available, and what was possible to make available even during this lockdown period. So it was very interesting to note that many colleges, not many colleges, some colleges were able, especially in Mpumalanga, I must specify, were able to get into television broadcasting lessons from as early as May. We went into key lessons that were broadcast online, and these were then put into podcasts and put onto the DHET website that could be accessed by colleges and students if they had the data. And we did as much as possible to make sure that those podcasts were able to be used on an ongoing basis by whoever wanted to use them, and they were easily accessible. The same we found initially just 1 or 2 colleges, but gradually more colleges came on board as they began to engage with their local radio stations to also broadcast lessons to students more locally. And those two began to be coordinated at the national department, where we began to consolidate all of these resources into a single platform where students and staff and colleges and whoever else wanted to access them could get access to those resources. And down the line, those websites were 0 rated, so that those who were accessing those websites did not have to incur, you know, exceptional data costs. And what also we found is that social media was leveraged quite a bit by lecturers. Things like WhatsApps and SMSs. WhatsApp in particular was used very to a great advantage, because it was found that lecturers use that mostly to set up class groups. And there was an enormous amount of communication going backwards and forwards between lecturers and their class groups, and navigating them through textbooks. Now, this is where it's very interesting for TVET colleges. As we know, TVET students receive textbooks free, literally, when they register. They don't even have to go and buy them, let alone, you know, being given the funding to do that. They receive their textbooks free of charge. So it's the one given we knew in the system, that students will have textbooks for each one of the subjects that they would be registered for. So the problem with textbooks is that they should not be the only resource ordinarily, you know, in face-to-face teaching. That would be the in principle position. Lecturers are expected to use a variety of resources to teach students. But in this COVID environment, it was actually the most useful tool, because it served a common frame of reference both for the lecturers and the students. And because these textbooks, you know, are evaluated by the department, they have a lot of exercises, practical exercises, assessment exercises, and so forth, which at the minimum level helped the educators to navigate the students through the syllabus and let them move progressively. So that is essentially where we were positioning the colleges during that very challenging period of supporting students remotely. So that is why we moved. In the TVET system, we did not talk about online learning. We knew that wasn't possible. But what we did speak about was remote support. And all that I've explained was aimed towards that. Going forward, and I'll come to that in a moment, it is a given where we are going, and I probably should dispense with that very quickly because I think the rest of the series actually will focus on things like blended learning and all of the implications of blended learning for institutions across PSET, but particularly for TVET colleges, and how we can grow that in the TVET sector. Running through all of this, another important development is the use of learner management systems, which again is a given in the university system, but in TVET colleges, not so. At the start of this difficult period, we found that just under 10 colleges had learner management systems. Even then, not all of them were active and using it maximally to their full potential. But as at now, we find that that number has crept closer to about 25, which is about 50% of colleges. So it means even during this COVID period, colleges have committed themselves that, you know what, we have to adjust to the new normal. We have to do things differently, and it's not only for this COVID period. These new normalities will have to persist into the post-COVID period because it makes sense. And this is where we are expected to go anyway. If we talk about the digital economy and the digital skills that we are expected to deliver in the TVET sector, loosely talking about the 4 IR skills that we have committed to, and the fact that, we also have to look to the NDP targets, which we will not meet if we look at full face-to-face tuition in our colleges. I mean, we can't double the TVET infrastructure to meet those NDP targets. So for all of these reasons, it remains extremely important that all of these initiatives to support e-learning, to provide remote learning support to students, to move into new modalities of delivery, it becomes imperative. And whatever gains we have made during these last 5 months, I would think now, is not lost as we go back to this new normal for the rest of the year and into 2021. What I also think I need to emphasize is that when the students returned, we knew the imperative for physical distancing and so forth. Colleges had to split classes into half and run, contact timetables, alternating with remote support. So in simple terms, it meant students would be in on certain days, and on other days they would be given work to get self-study, to do self-study, and then, but still, submit work, receive work, and so forth. And the colleges have settled in quite well. Obviously, some colleges have done it better than others. Others have struggled, especially during the turbulent period. But where we are now, colleges have more or less embedded that in how they have timetabled and run their timetables. Up to now, colleges have not only run those classes, we completed running national exams in July. The trimester 1 results were released last week, and Lucy, for those of us who were part of that webinar, heard that Lucy actually complimented colleges and the department for running a successful examination during the peak of the COVID period, which was July. And, now currently the N6 students are writing their examinations. So this is the territory that the TVET system has had to navigate from, I would say, April up to now. And despite the difficulties and the challenges, I must say that our evaluation is that colleges have pretty much come up well on the other side. Just lastly, Program Director, I want to say that as we go into this post-COVID period, we do remain committed to this new normal, and this is where this webinar series, I think, is going to provide the support, the insights, and the expertise for how we continue to reposition the TVET colleges to go into this new era. They say, you know, there's every disaster provides an opportunity, and this COVID-19 context has forced us into territory that we should have gone into, but we never envisaged it would happen at the speed at which we've had to do it. Right now, as we know, it's common knowledge. We are working very hard to provide every single TVET college student with a device to support exactly what we are talking about, blended learning and remote learning support and so forth. And right today, I came out of a meeting as I joined you in this webinar on how we are doing the same for lecturers. The initiative for lecturers is going to have to be a lot more aggressive because they have to be prepared ahead of students. They can't be learning with the students on how to use devices. And as we know, the devices don't deliver the innovations. The innovations come with a very intimate knowledge of the technologies, about what makes up learning materials that are suitable for online learning. It requires a great deal of creativity, a great deal of intimate knowledge of how that plays out when students receive materials that are not delivered face to face. So with that, Chair, I'm not sure if there was much more that was required of me, but that is how I read my mandate, to just give you an overview of how we've navigated the space over the last few months and where we are now, and our commitments to going forward as a sector in this post-COVID period. Thank you very much. And with that, because I will be leaving you in the next half an hour, I want to wish you everything of the best for this series, and we are extremely, extremely grateful for the support because we think it will be invaluable going forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Singh, for such a profound, informative, you see, and also empowering, you know, address. I would also like to thank you as a department, you know, for always making continual efforts to make sure that our TVET colleges are safe environments. And also, you mentioned something like regarding zero-rated platforms that also helps to enhance, you know, access to TVET education, you know, for our students during the pandemic. At this point, I would like to open up the session for engagement, where we can also give a voice to the participants, you know, as a follow-up to the address from the Acting Deputy Director General. So I will start by reading messages that have been coming through in the chat, you know, before we give a chance to a few participants that will be raising up their hands. So as I look at the chat, I can see that at the beginning, it was nice. We got a number of greetings messages from the participants. So I will start with this one message from Jinab, who says, thank you, very profound introduction, and thank you for breaking the silence around our TVETs. Simon says, Leslie and colleagues, University of Nottingham are honored to be partners with all of you in this. Martin says, afternoon colleagues, I'm Martin Somo, the former SRC president of the Southwest Gauteng TVET College and currently an intern in the Student Support Services Unit. Joy Papier says, wonderful work from the working group. Andre says, great initiative. Thanks to all involved and present. We also have Guy Harris, who says hi from Harris Council, member False Bay TVET College, and prior term was chairman of Northlink for part of my term there, and chair of False Bay TVET, and passionate about the TVET entrepreneurship, and great that a stepchild status of TVET college versus university. And I think she wanted to mention that the status also is being upheld here of the TVET colleges. Then there is Olwan Mwazi. Thank you, Leslie, for the initiative. It's great to see so many important people in just one meeting. I lead a small company called Black Hat, which assists with student leadership development, TVET college elections, and we have a competent team that does data collection and capturing. For more information, he gives his details there. Then Kahiso says, I'm honored to be in this platform as TVET college graduate and founder of For the Youth, by the Youth, that focuses on student placement and grooming student entrepreneurs. Then we have Guy Harris. He says, Kahiso, not sure if you got my message. And then he requests to please share the youth web link. And then we have got Aruna Strength. Please get the minister and top management to be sensitive to exclusivity entrenchment by only referring to universities when doing announcements and commenting on strategies and rolling out implementation. It is, he doesn't like that. He says it is not nice. Then we have got Padayachi, and who goes on to say, okay, you have to drop off, hope to catch the remainder on the recording. Then Prisha says, thanks for the wonderful delivery. To what extent did the very remote and vulnerable cope with this new normal? Then there's Nandipa Banga. Good day, Mr. Muronda. My name is Nandipa Banga, a PhD candidate on TVET blended learning. May you please share the recording with me? Okay, thanks for that. And the recording will be shared as already clarified. Then Cindy Swampongo says, hope all the students will get the devices because that will make things easy for both lecturers and students as well during these trying times. Then we have Monwabisi, who goes on to say, thank you once again for allowing us to be part of this initiative, as I believe that it will help us with the tools and knowledge we need to lead, learn, and assist our fellow peers. I'm Monwabisi Maneli, the current SRC member from Ikala TVET College from the Eastern Cape. Then we have got Cheryl, who says, going forward, how might lecturers and students be supported through additional open educational resources and envisaged in the draft open learning policy framework? Then Omega says, it is a privilege to be part of this webinar. I am a PhD graduate in TVET, specifically on skills development. Then Guy Harris says, thanks all involved and for elevating the status of TVET colleges, lecturers, and students, onwards and upwards. Then we've got Mahlase Innocent. Was the presentation based on all colleges or selected campuses? It's a question. Then Omega, it is privileged. I'm privileged to be part of this webinar. I'm a PhD graduate in TVET. I think I've read that, on skills development. Then we have got Nosipiwo. how are the students with disabilities supported during these trying times? Then lastly, we have Fusima Seko, who says, good day all. I'm willing to share the best practices with all lecturers. May you contact me? And then gives his details. And they say they are e-learning managers at SWGC. Okay, so that's basically what we have from the chat. And I'm looking for hands. Okay, it seems I don't see. Okay, all right. There's a hand there from
Guy. Yes.
From Guy, yes. So Guy, you can speak.
Thank you very much, and to the organizers and everyone for doing this. I think it's going to be critical for the elevating of the status of TVET graduates, TVET courses, TVET lecturers, and TVET colleges, and to overcome that stepchild approach. I'm very interested in the University of Nottingham involvement and the way in which UK universities and TVET colleges collaborate, particularly around entrepreneurship. I'm about to post the link to the EDHE sessions that run from the 14th to the 18th of September. I raised the exclusion of TVET colleges 2 years ago at Cape Town, and last year we got a small look in at the in Durban at the EDHE, and I'm happy to share our slides from that. We fortunately had some role models, and really TVET entrepreneurship to me is even more critical than universities, but I think we've got to build the bridges rather than the divides. And Aruna, I really hope that Dora has been able to convince TVET unit management to get on board on the EDHE this year. But thanks a lot, and strength for what everyone's doing.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you, Guy, for that input. And also, in the same breath, I don't think we still have ample time to allow more speakers. And on that point, I would like to thank the participants for raising important and useful points during the engagement. And I would like, and I hope Ms. Aruna Singh is still here with us. I would like to hand over to Ms. Singh so that she may respond maybe to some of the points that we have raised. Over to you, Ms. Aruna Singh.
Thank you. I think what I picked up is that by and large we had comments, not too many questions, but I did pick up 2 of them. If I missed out any, my apologies, and if you know, I could just be reminded of them, I will respond as best I can. The first was, how did we cope with those, with the vulnerable groups, you know, in respect of remote learning? I wouldn't say that I would have the perfect answer for that. You know, at the operational level, the colleges were able to, we're the ones dealing with that in a hands-on sort of way, and different areas, of course, there were different demands. But we were extremely supported by Higher Health. Higher Health had a presence across all our colleges. There were very strong referral systems put in place, and you know, the testing was effective from day one. So, and those who were detected to be positive or with symptoms were dealt with immediately. I must say, you know, in our experience and with the visits, you would know that our deputy minister has also been out in the field during this time, ever since the campuses opened in different areas. And one did get the sense, we couldn't monitor because of the restriction on movements, you know, we couldn't move across provinces and so forth for a long time. But one got the sense that the colleges had really been practicing what the protocols had set out. So whatever was laid out, especially in the guidelines for the PSET sector developed by Higher Health, that is what we had been strictly monitoring. And we found a high degree of compliance. Of course, here and there we got complaints from unions and from students, certain student groupings, and we responded to those as very particular cases. But overall, I must say that there was a great deal of compliance to support students and to deal with the issues that emerged. The second one I picked up, and even here I am, you know, I can't say that I can give a detailed response. How did the colleges deal with students with disabilities? Now, I don't think much was done differently. I would think that when students return to campuses, I mean, remotely, they would have had to, you know, isolate those students and see what their specific needs were. But when students return to campuses, my suspicion is these students would have continued to be supported remotely, because that would have been the safer and the more sensible thing to do. So students with disabilities who were seriously impacted, if they were forced to come to campuses, you know, physically, they would have continued to be supported remotely. And you know, we all, apart from staff, we also have students, young students, who would have comorbidities. For example, an asthmatic student would be a comorbidity. And those would be the kind of decisions that the colleges would have had to take. And we believe that they did, because we have been monitoring them in terms of having to provide that kind of information to the department on our monitoring tool. So apart from that, I didn't pick up any direct questions, Chair. But if there are that I missed out, if they can be repeated, and I will respond. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Aruna. I think you've responded, you know, with clarity to the points and the comments that came from the participants, and I'm now better informed, actually, you know, on how to actively engage and participate in this 7-part webinar series that is coming, because you've laid the foundation in terms of, you know, the strategy and the plan going forward. And I hope the same goes for all the participants and panelists, you know, that will be joining the 7 parts of the webinar series. So once again, I would like to thank you so much, Ms. Aruna Singh, both for the presentation and for addressing the questions and answers, and for the entire support that you've given to this initiative. Thank you so much. And having said that, like I said at the beginning, our webinar has got 2 parts. So we have got this first part that was launching the webinar series, and I think at this point we've come to its ending. So we are now moving on to the actual webinar, the first part of the 7 parts in the series. And the topic is positioning TVET colleges during the pandemic. The hosting partner here is the Eastern Cape TVET Colleges Research Roundtable. And I'm happy to introduce to you the chairperson of the Eastern Cape TVET Colleges Research Roundtable, Mrs. Tuletu Nongauza Njengele, a deputy principal at Ikala TVET College, who will be moderating this session, now the second session, the second part, with Mrs. Aruna Singh, Aruna Horn, sorry. My apologies there, I beg your pardon. Mrs. Almain Horn, who is a first education specialist at the East Cape Midlands TVET College. So I would like to hand over to you, my sister, Mrs. Tuletu Nongauza Jengele.
Thank you very much, my big brother Francis, for coordinating such a powerful presentation from our leader, the acting DDG, Aruna Singh. It's a pity that when we are doing the closing remarks, she will not be there, but I feel tempted that while she's still around, I kind of, before I start with what I have to do, just to express a sincere gratitude to you, Ms. Aruna Singh. You know, your ongoing, continuing support is the one that gives us energy and the zeal and that enthusiasm to go on the ground. Thank you so much. It's not for the first time supporting our initiatives. We've been running this race with you. You were here physically in the Eastern Cape in 2018 when we were hosting the National DHT Research Colloquium. You were here giving us all the support and all of your team. Thank you very much. We feel your presence. Sometimes it's like you guys, you are just around the corner. Thank you very much. When you see us running and sweating at the colleges, you must know that it is all your effort, it's all your work. Thank you for the energy. Running with what I have to do, quickly, let me introduce the Eastern Cape Research Roundtable that is kind of running this webinar today. For those who don't know it, maybe let me just quickly run through sharing just a quick short presentation that I've kind of prepared here for you guys. My boss is here again. They know at the college that I'm the one who masters these things. Now it's gonna be something else. Is my screen showing?
Not yet.
Not yet, no. Okay. Not showing.
Okay, not yet.
Not yet.
Did you hit share,
I did.
share screen and select your PowerPoint?
I did. I'm sharing screen. And then I select my PowerPoint. There it is. Is it showing now? Not showing.
Not.
Not showing. Still not showing.
Okay, we can see your email. Okay, now
you can see my,
yes,
see my presentation now.
Yes, slide mode.
Okay, thank you so much then. Thank you so much. Colleagues, I'm gonna be brief because I think at least by now we do have an idea of what this research roundtable is in the program. I'm just gonna hit just the few points where I will talk briefly about the structure and the status of the Eastern Cape Research Roundtable, and as well as the importance and value of research in the sector, and then I will close. Quickly, as we all know, that in terms of the sector, our main focus previously had been the production of artisan for the country. And that ended up leaving us with a stigma that we are only a sector of those who don't cope academically. Hence, the research we didn't see any role to play in terms of research. We only saw research as the niche for universities, which then contributed to leaving us without tapping into the opportunity of developing our own capacity, both at personal level and at institutional level, using this powerful tool, which is research. But thanks God, because there's been a shift with time, whereby as colleges, we could realize that in terms of the research, as much as it is not our niche area, but as learning institutions, we do have a role to play. To understand that colleges in the Eastern Cape, they ended up institutionalizing research so that we are able to assist our college councils in taking strategic decisions, as well as to use research itself as a tool for lecturer development, especially in terms of enhancing competence. So we ended up establishing this roundtable, which is the Eastern Cape TVET Colleges Research Roundtable, and then colleges, to show support in terms of this initiative, they appointed researchers. Others didn't appoint researchers, but they kind of assigned the work of coordinating research in their institutions to specific officials. So that was enough to institutionalize research within TVET colleges. As a result, if we look from between 2016, when we started, up to now, we have got a number of masters and PhD candidates, as well as those who have already graduated, which has thus increased in our TVET colleges. And this Eastern Cape TVET Research Roundtable is kind of trying to motivate and encourage TVET participants. Now, the structure and the status of the structure and the status of this roundtable. Firstly, this is a unique innovation. We have nowhere to copy or to learn best practices because we have never seen it anywhere. It all started up as a dream, which was established, which was mainly focusing to establish a research chair. As we know that there are research chairs that are hosted by universities, we thought that as TVET colleges, we may be able to host a research chair, but it came clear that as research is not our main focus, we cannot host a research chair, but we can have a research roundtable that can kind of assist us in terms of what we want to do. So the colleges in the Eastern Cape, they came together and established this Eastern Cape TVET Colleges Research Roundtable. And we were later joined by the Eastern Cape Community College. We moved on trying to zoom into what is it that, how can we use this research in terms of assisting our institutions. In our journey, we were also joined by e-universities, especially those that host research chairs, because we wanted to learn from our big brothers this concept of research, so that we know that we can use it as a tool to empower as well as to build capacity in our institutions. And as a result, we have Walter Sisulu, we have got the University of Forte, the NAMU, as well as the CPUT. As you all know that the NAMU and the CPUT are hosting research chairs that relate to TVET. So they've kind of mothered us. They've kind of supported us from when we were established up until today. So currently, in terms of the structure, I can say that we are 8 colleges, 8 TVET colleges, the community college, and the 4 universities that are kind of mothering us. Now, this Eastern Cape TVET roundtable, mainly the focus was to improve the success of TVET students in the college, and in industry. Remember, if we talk about success of students, we cannot look at what is happening on site. We have to marry the two. We have to marry the college, which is the institution where the learning is happening, as well as industry. If we prioritize one leg and not the other, then we will have missed the boat. So how were we thinking of doing this? We were thinking of doing this by developing a student tracking system that will focus on graduates of TVET colleges and their current career paths, exit level students, readiness for employability and self-employability, the implementation of work integrated learning to increase the success of TVET students in the college as well as in industry. So Eastern Cape TVET Colleges Research Roundtable, mainly we do submit our recommendation to college councils, DHET, SETAs, and other relevant stakeholders on strategies that can explore to increase the college students' employability and self-employability, and also in other TVET related matters. What is the status of the Eastern Cape TVET College Roundtable as we speak? This is a structure that has been approved, well supported by the Department of Higher Education and Training, as well as the Eastern Cape TVET Regional Office. I am sure now it is also represented in this our regional office is represented in this webinar. Our college principals, though at the end of the day, if we were moving with this without the support of our college principal, I don't think today we'll have realized the having a webinar of this nature. We are also supported a lot in the region by the Eastern Cape Human Resource Development Council. We sit there and they kind of take us through so that our research is in line with what is happening within the region and will have an impact in terms of service delivery also within our region. Supported by mainly by ETDP SETA, INSETA, which are kind of moving the journey with us. Now, looking at why have we highlighted research as important within the sector to such an extent that we needed to organize ourselves in this fashion. As I said, TVET colleges, they don't have a choice. We have to look at what is happening in the college and what is happening in industry. And the main key there is to look at the implementation of work integrated learning. The implementation of WIL is the one that gives us a measure if we are able to strike a balance between learning in the institution and learning in the workplace. So as I'm saying there, that no will, no business when it comes to TVET. So the college sector is therefore unable to fulfill the mandate without the effective implementation of WIL. Now, through research, we can therefore now identify the implementation of, we can therefore identify if the implementation of WIL has nothing to do with the quality of TVET graduates. The TVET graduates have got nothing to do with TVET college lecturers. The quality of our lecturers, do they really have anything to do with the programs that they offer? Those programs, do they really have nothing to do with the modes of instruction? Now, if we look at the period that we are in, all this wanted us to look at it at a much advanced and a higher scale than we initiated this Eastern Cape Research Roundtable. So if TVET colleges do have required capacity for effective administration and management of WIL, it is only the research that will help us to identify if that capacity for administration and management of WIL is there. Now, in the administration and management of WIL, the heartbeat there is the management and administration of TVET college industry partnerships, which we must highlight. Effective WIL strategies, specifically for TVET, considering that where there is learning, there must be assessment. Now, these colleges, they therefore acknowledge the importance of scientific research, which is all in line with the DHET statement that research is key to PSET system in realizing the vision outlined in the white paper for the post-school education and training. I will quickly run to my conclusion. We therefore say, as the Eastern Cape Research Roundtable, it is through research that we aim to improve capacity of college lecturers and staff, which in turn will improve program delivery, administration of will, and the management and administration of TVET college industry partnerships, all spilling off to improving the quality of TVET college graduates, thereby improving the rate of employability and self-employment. And this Eastern Cape TVET College Research Roundtable is the perfect catalyst in the TVET pathway. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, colleagues. Whilst I am there, we have been supported, as I highlighted, by college principals. And I want to introduce now our second speaker, which is Uputkaya, who has been there when we were still dreaming the concept, up until we implemented it until today. Shortly, Uputkaya, Mr. Matiso, I know, Mr. Matiso, that as I'm introducing you, there are students that are here, there are lecturers that are here, people that want to, that are aspiring to be where you are today. He has started a lot of programs, but the key highlights of his academic career is the BA degree that he obtained from Vista University. Then from Rhodes University, he obtained a higher diploma in education, a postgraduate diploma in international studies, and a B.Ed degree. Then from the PE Technicon, he obtained a B.Tech in business management. And then he obtained the master's in business administration. In a nutshell, in terms of his work experiences, he has worked starting from being a teacher when we were having the Sky government. He taught, and then from being a teacher, he moved on to work for Volkswagen as a personnel officer there for a lot of time. And then from there, he worked for Rhodes as a research assistant. From being a research assistant, he used his research expertise to work for the Searcher Trust. Then he joined the academic space where he worked at BE Tech as a lecturer. Then from there, he moved to the Department of Education and Culture then. Then from there, he joined the academic space again, and he worked for the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University until he came to us at the Department of Higher Education and Training, where he served there as a college principal. But over and above being a college principal, Mr. Mattis, or maybe others, they don't know, he has been like an engine in the sector. He has produced all of us. If you see us, you see a resemblance of what he has contributed in terms of building the sector. So in that nutshell, that is Mr. Kaya Matiso. Thank you very much, colleagues. Over to you, Kaya. Kaya, we can't hear you. Unmute.
Okay.
Unmute, Budkaya. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me now clearly?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you very much, Sister Letu. Good afternoon, colleagues, my students, managers from TVET colleges, our DHT colleagues, our researchers, our postgraduate students. Greetings to all of you colleagues. And I want to say thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me. I'm happy to be part of this meeting. Although I'm alone in a room and I'm told that I'm in a meeting, but I'm alone in a room. But thank you very much for the invitation. And thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to reflect on what needs to be done in the TVET college sector, to reflect on what we have done, and perhaps to talk briefly about the future. I'm given 15 minutes, and within the 15 minutes, I'm going to make sure that I give you a summary. I hope it's going to be a meaningful summary. But before I start, let me make some few open remarks. And the first one is that the topics, future topics that we'll be discussing in the series about teaching and learning, about future of work, about occupations, about the TVET sector and the informal economy and so on. Very important topics. But today I want to focus more on what I call the need for basic organizational structures and systems in an institution so that we can consolidate, so that we can defend our gains, so that we can talk about the future. So the focus of my presentation, colleagues, is going to be on organizational basics that I think must be in place. My second comment is that I'm going to reinforce what Aruna was saying. Aruna's input was more on operational matters, giving us an update in terms of what's going on in the TVET sector in South Africa. And I'm going to reinforce that precisely because of my main argument will be, before you talk strategic planning, before you talk conceptual work, and before you talk about the post-COVID-19 work, and before you talk about the future, let us get a clear understanding of the current state of the TVET sector in South Africa. So I'm going to reinforce what Aruna was talking about. My third comment, colleagues, I'm going to indicate clearly that the colleges in South Africa, the 50 TVET colleges in South Africa, they are at different levels of development in terms of the basic structures and systems, in terms of management, in terms of governance, in terms of teaching and learning, in terms of student support services. The colleges, our colleges in this country, are at different levels of development. And I think we need to acknowledge that. We need to appreciate that so that we can be more flexible in terms of what we're planning to do as a system, what we're planning to do as a nation. So I want to stress the fact that the colleges we're talking about are at different levels of development. Similarly, the universities in South Africa are at different levels of development. Sometimes we talk about universities in rural areas. Sometimes we talk about former Black universities. The list is long. So these higher education institutions, colleagues, are at different levels of development. Perhaps my fourth comment, I want to appreciate what the organizers of this meeting are doing. From my side, I think what we're doing here, we're putting vocational education on the national agenda and perhaps on the international agenda. This is wonderful. This is exciting. This is empowering. I like what we're doing today. We're putting vocational education, we're putting the needs and aspirations and expectations of our students on the agenda. And we're saying, this is what we need to do. These are the basic needs of our students. These are the basic aspirations of our students. So I appreciate that. I think it's a very good initiative. It must be supported. I'm very happy that there's overwhelming support for this initiative. So well done to all of you, the organizers. In terms of what my input is all about, colleagues, I'm going to focus on 3 themes perhaps. And the first theme is just about saying COVID-19 is a very dangerous pandemic. COVID-19 is our enemy number 1. COVID-19 has devastated our lives. Some of our family members, students, staff, colleagues, neighbors, relatives have succumbed. It's a very difficult period in the history of our country. And we're all devastated. And it's a pity that perhaps there's no presentation on what this pandemic is all about. But at least we've got some few ideas in terms of the nature, the shape, and so on of this pandemic. And we're also told, colleagues, that this pandemic has resulted in our businesses facing closure. Businesses have collapsed. Retrenchment notices have already started, especially in the steel industry, auto industry, transport, South African Airways, and many other sectors. So you can see that even the jobs, although there's a high unemployment in this country, but the jobs are at stake. And I'm told by a union called NUMSA that the Eastern Cape is the hardest hit province in terms of retrenchments. So this is a disaster. So the question immediately can be raised about what's going to happen to those retrenched workers. Are our institutions ready to provide in a flexible way adult education, adult training, short learning programs? In other words, is the system ready to accommodate a large number of workers that are going to be retrenched? At the same time, colleagues, there's another angle here before I talk about the basics. And that angle is the international angle. I think when the world is facing this crisis, faced by our continent, faced by all continents in the world, the question then is there a movement towards international solidarity? In other words, international solidarity is a powerful weapon in the struggle against the disease. And I think there are threats, in my understanding, there are threats to international solidarity. And one of them is the fact that almost in all countries, there's a very high national debt. So countries are struggling to provide support, necessary resources to education, to health. There are also possible trade wars, maybe not even possible, there are trade wars that are going on between US and China, for example. That's a threat. I'm flagging that because it's going to affect us indirectly and directly. The issue of climate change, for example, the extreme weather patterns, that's another threat not to be ignored. So from an international perspective, I'm saying we're supposed to rely on what I call international solidarity, international support, special support to developing countries. But I'm saying, unfortunately, there's a threat to that, precisely because of some of the negative developments that I've mentioned. So guided by all those kind of fears and threats, I'm saying it's going to be very difficult, extremely difficult for developing countries such as South Africa to receive international support on the basis of what is going on in terms of the negative threats that I've mentioned. At the same time, colleagues, I'm saying it's important for us, even before I talk about the basics, before I talk about organizational basics in the TVET sector, very important for us to remind ourselves that the education system is interconnected. All the various components and levels in education. Here I'm talking about your schooling system. I'm talking about the TVET sector that we're discussing today. I'm talking about the university sector. Now, all these subsystems are connected. And this is very important, especially in the Eastern Cape province, where we're told several times by researchers that we are struggling to improve our reading and writing and numeracy skills. You can imagine then if those young people at that level, they're not advanced in terms of reading, writing, and numeracy skills. The basic skills are not there. That is obviously going to affect us as the higher education system. We all know that language skills are also underdeveloped. The performance of our schooling system in mathematics, for example, in science, in technology, we know every year we get the results. We know the facts and figures. That is a province, and also in other provinces, we are struggling to make good progress when it's come to your basic skills, schooling level, when it's come to mathematics and science, when it's come to language skills. And I'm saying to you, that is going to affect us. COVID or no COVID, during COVID and post-COVID, that is going to affect us precisely because we're talking about the future, the next few years. And those young people are coming to us without the basic skills. That is going to affect us. I'm saying, therefore, colleagues, let's have a clear understanding that the various levels and components in the education system, in my view, are really connected. Coming then to the main topic. By the way, that was my introduction. It's a long introduction. The COVID-19 and the TVET college sector. And in my brief presentation, colleagues, I'm arguing for what I call the need for an agenda for action. The need to understand the main pillars of the TVET sector. I'm focusing on the pillars of the TVET sector precisely because in future meetings, we'll be dealing with other topics. And I'm saying, if you're going to talk about good teaching and learning, if you're going to talk about learner support, if we're going to talk about occupations, if we're going to talk about all those important relevant topics, I'm saying in my presentation to you, I want us for a few minutes just to focus on the basics. The first one that I want to mention, and I'm using here my language colleagues, I'm saying there's a need for us to do what I call consolidation of the college governance system. And I'm mentioning this governance issue precisely because in the South African context, there's a history behind these colleges. There's the state of SOEs in South Africa. There's the issue of state capture, for example. Governance system has been destroyed in South Africa. I do know that there are some of our universities, they're under administration. Governance has collapsed. And therefore I'm saying the first basic priority during this period, even after this period, for the next few years, let us make sure that we consolidate our governance system. Fortunately then, in most of our colleges, we've got our newly appointed council members. I hope they're doing a good job. I hope they are just involved in governance only. I hope they are not operational. I hope they are not trying to manage the colleges. I hope they don't interfere with the management of the colleges. They're just focusing on their governance work. That's very important, colleagues. As part of way forward to make sure that we consolidate what we have already done. The appointment of council members and the induction of those council members to make sure that there's stability at that level, at the governance level. The second big priority, colleagues, from me, is that we need to build the management capacity in all 50 colleges. See, this old culture of running a college without a college principal, managing a college without vice principals, managing a college without the head of finance, managing a college without the head of HR. That's bad. Those are the kinds of practices that you must stop. So I'm talking about consolidating management capacity in each and every college. Let's make sure that there are managers in all our 50 colleges. Let's make sure that there are campus managers in all our 50 colleges, and they're qualified, they are trained, and they do their job. For me, that's part of the basics that must be placed before we talk more about other topics. The third priority, immediately your governance system is in place and you've got your good management in place, then you can reinvest, invest, reinvest, and so on in the college sector. You can mobilize more resources. I'm sure you know this. Colleges are under-resourced, underfunded. And this is not according to me. It's according to a task team appointed by DHT 4 or 5 years ago that indicated to all of us as a nation that the TVET sector in South Africa is seriously underfunded. And as a funder, as a sponsor, as a supporter of a college, I would like to support a college that is well governed, that is well managed. That's why I started by talking about governance systems being in place, management capacity being in place. That means we've got managers to manage the institutions. And then you can bring additional resources from investors, from funders. That's my third comment regarding what needs to be done. The fourth priority I would like to identify, colleagues. I'm sure students will be excited about this one. I think we need to consolidate the current uncertain, sometimes unstable financial aid system in each and every college. By the way, in each and every university. I think we're very fortunate as a country. We are supporting poor students. We are investing more than 30 billion in financial aid, supporting poor students in colleges and also in universities. I think that's a very good strategy. That's a very good policy. In my view, whether there's COVID or there's no COVID, we must not abandon that kind of a policy, that kind of a strategy. However, at an operational level, we must make sure that we've got the capacity then to manage financial aid systems in our colleges, in our universities. In other words, we must be able to provide the financial resources, the right amount, to the right student, at the right time. The right amount to the right student at the right time. And stop this thing of giving money to students in April or in May. So, to me, that's basic. To me, that's critical. To me, that's the starting point. Let's make sure that we've got strong, viable financial aid systems in each and every college, and I may add, in each and every university. That's important, colleagues, precisely because we've got a high level of poverty in this country. Most of the students we're talking about, even those that are participating in this meeting, are extremely poor young people. They don't have resources. They rely on the financial aid system. And therefore, I'm saying, as an argument, the post-COVID-19 scenario must have, for me it's non-negotiable, must have a good financial aid system. I think that's very important. Number 4, as a priority again, still talking about COVID-19 and the TVET sector. I think colleagues, we need to strengthen the student support services in each and every college. There was mention of the need of our students with disabilities. I can mention the need for good counseling services in all our colleges. I can say there's a need, an urgent need, to make sure that our academic support services are well organized. And remember, colleagues, in some colleges, there are just no academic support services. We are giving young people funding to come to a college, but you are not supporting these young people to succeed in a college. Whereas the theory is, come to a college, come to a university, here's funding, we're expecting you to succeed. Now you can imagine, if there's funding available for young people, but there's no academic support services for young people. Therefore, that's a problem. So in our post-COVID-19 system, let's make sure that we consolidate that. If there are no such services in the college, let's introduce those services. That's what I'm proposing, colleagues. Priority number 5, colleagues, consolidation of current lecture development programs. I'm very happy the teachers from colleges are part of this meeting. My colleagues who are lecturers in colleges are part of this meeting. The initiatives around lecture development, all those interventions, including the formal interventions, the formal qualifications from a university, qualifications that are given to our lecturers. That's a good initiative. We must do more on that, precisely because what we have inherited from the pre-1994 system, the system situation where some of our lecturers do not have university qualifications. Some of them just ended up doing level 6 and 6. After that, you become a lecturer. Now there's no ongoing training. There's no ongoing support. So I'm one of those who were so excited when the university started introducing formal qualifications. And I'm saying, we must not abandon that. Our colleagues who are teaching must be supported. Let's make sure that we consolidate what we're doing. Let's make sure that we give them training, ongoing training. And I'm very happy when two ladies talk about some of our colleagues who are now doing masters. Some of them are doing PhD. Some of them are now researchers. That's exciting. That's exactly what we want. So the whole TVET sector within the next 4 or 5 years is going to be very dynamic, intellectually and academically. It's going to be very dynamic, precisely because we do have in some of our colleges, or possibly in all colleges, our colleagues doing postgraduate work, doing formal qualifications. In my view, colleagues, I'm saying that must be consolidated as part of our work in this post-COVID scenario that we're talking about. Perhaps priority number 6, I'm saying the initiatives around student entrepreneurship and worker co-ops that I've seen in some colleges. I think this must be consolidated. It doesn't make sense, colleagues, just to talk about training young people, educating young people for unemployment. I think we must learn now, once and for all, and accept the reality that future jobs in this country and future jobs in developing countries are going to be found within the small business sector. And therefore, our young people must start now having the ideas to develop their own businesses or their own co-ops. I always say to my students, if I'm a qualified carpenter, a qualified engineer, qualified in electrical engineering, so I am an electrician, Why am I looking for a job? I've got the skills. I'm a plumber. Why am I looking for a job? Because all over, there's a need for plumbers. Therefore, I can start my own company, can come together with my colleagues and establish a company and provide the services that are needed. And I think the TVET sector, in my view, is strategically located to produce those students. I know I did have those students in my own college, especially in one of my campuses, the Kaya campus. Students were saying, well, I'm qualified to do 1, 2, 3. And therefore, if I can't find a job, I can't stay in the township, stay in a village and do nothing. I've got the skills and therefore I can employ myself. I can see that I'm running out of time. I can see that I'm running out of time. Let me then move quickly, colleagues, by saying those colleges who have already started to introduce student entrepreneurship projects and co-ops, that must be consolidated. To me, that's the future. Finally, colleagues, if I can make closing remarks, I can see the chairperson is saying to me, Kaya, stop now. I can see that there's some kind of intimidation. I accept that too. Colleagues, in closing, because I'm trying to summarize, in closing, what I'm trying to argue is that there's a need for us in this period, in this COVID-19 period, to think carefully about consolidating what you have already done. Secondly, I'm saying perhaps as way forward, there's a need for us to do more collaborative work, more coordinated work. Stop this thing of working as TVET colleges, as universities, as the schooling system. We're part of one system, and everything that we're doing is connected. That's what I'm trying to say. So thank you very much, Sister Letu. I hope I've provoked your thinking. I would like to say more, but I know when there are questions, I'll come back to my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Budkai. No, thank you very much, Budkai. I am co-moderating this session together with my sister, my colleague, Almarion, and I'm gonna give it over to her so that we can go to charts. You are muted.
Okay.
Okay.
Good afternoon, colleagues and participants. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I'd like to go to the chat groups. There's a number of comments that have been made here that is quite valuable in terms of Mr. Matiso's presentation. My apologies. I want to start here. The one that stood out for me, in no particular order, is the one from Floris Prinsloo. Floris mentioned a couple of things, but the first point that she's mentioned is that she's concerned about the TVET college moving into research. And she then questions whether it is the space for TVET colleges to be in the research space. Further than that, she emphasizes that we need work integrated learning. She speaks about the importance of that. I'm not sure if it's her or Tanya. Tanya also mentioned the same thing, that we are not engaging the workplaces, companies, industry in this session. So I would have liked to, if we could give an opportunity maybe just to comment, if you can unmute her. Tabo, are you able to unmute Floris Prinsloo?
Is unmuted.
Floris, you may speak, please.
He's no longer with us. He already left. In the chat box, he said he's going to next meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. May I ask Tanya Reeves to just expand on what she's mentioned in the chat box, in terms of industry as well in the conversation and perpetuating the cycle within the TVET sector.
Hi,
Thank you,
colleagues. Hi, colleagues. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Tanya, we can hear you.
Yes, Floris made the comment originally. I've been following a lot of what he's doing and where he's been involved with. He was actually off to meet some government departments now, but I think it is important that perhaps us in our individual capacities as consultants, that we also use our networks to advertise the series to industry members that need to be involved in, will, and have to varying degrees initiated projects for between TVETs and universities. So I just was reiterating his comment, which is, I think every one of us here that might be representing a college or a private institution, you know, there's certain aspects here that we can share, even if it is through the recordings that we share with relevant industry members to involve them in making the decisions, because we can't do that on their behalf if we don't know the stakes that they need to, because they have a stake in the decisions that come forth out of these discussions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tanya. We appreciate your comments. Moving along, I would just like to mention also that my apologies, colleagues, if I mispronounce your surname or your name. It's Tulika mentioned that Floris has given a good observation regarding the absence of industry, and we do take note about your commentary in that. There's also a concern that if our platform today, how many colleges are involved, and do we have the full college body within the Eastern Cape or they nationally as part of this conversation? We can comment on that, Tuletu. Maybe you want to come in there?
Yes, no, thank you very much. Maybe also to come a little bit back to what Floris was raising. I think in this platform, we've extended our invitation to SETAs so that they've got a representation on the side of the on the demand side to cater for that. And then coming to the I'm seeing here almost all our colleges are here in the province. Those that I work with, they are all here, all the 8 colleges. I see Lovedale, I see KST, I see almost all of them, they are here. I'm not sure about the national coverage. I'm not sure about that one. But in the province, yeah, we are all here.
We are all here in the province.
Yes.
So we do then have a good representation for the TVET body from the province. We have representation for all the 8 colleges in the province. I've seen in the earlier chats there were Falls Bay College also here. And I do think that we have a good representation of the TVET sector itself. My personal comment would be in terms of us doing research. For so long, the universities has done research about us, without us. And I do think we, as much as we might not have had the academic expertise before, thanks to people like Dr. Leslie Powell, who are championing these kind of efforts, we are getting to become the new academics in the field. So please watch out for us, universities. Dr. Powell, I've seen you've also responded in terms of the PhDs and the master's students. If you maybe like to just elaborate on your commentary, then we can close with your comments.
Thank you, Almaine. I wanted to make 2 comments, and the one was that which I made in the chat, which was that I'm supervising a number of PhD students who are also TVET lecturers, and they're wonderful scholars and doing really well in their PhD process. And so And a core part, of course, of any doctoral degree is the research that you do. I think the second point that I want to make is that it's really hard to separate teaching and pedagogy, you know, because they work together. You learn through action research, and the more conscious you are about what you're doing and how you are doing it, the better you are as an educator. So it works as a cycle. And so teaching, learning, research are not necessarily separate categories in that way. There are different types of research that one can engage with and different types of scholarship. But I just wanted to flag that. And I think the third thing I want to say is that we're doing work on the DHET TVET College's research program, the program led by Professor Joy Papier from EPS. And we are working very closely with our colleges in the province. Our colleges are supporting us as researchers, as analysts, as writers in many different capacities. And so some of the core skills that you would need as a researcher or as a scholar are skills that we are drawing on, but from within the sector. So I know that DHET has a position, because we've had this discussion before, and of course there is a distinction between the core remit of a university and the core remit of a TVET college. But I think it strengthens the core remit of a TVET college if the colleges are empowered to research themselves, understand themselves. So in our work, we like to produce knowledge not on people, but with people. And we like to work within a community where we can engage in dialogue and try and co-construct knowledge. And we find that the work is deeper, it is better. And having worked as a consultant myself in a previous lifetime, long time ago, I know that we would often be under time pressure. We'd zoom into the institution quite quickly, do the work we needed to do and exit. And I find that the way in which we're working now has deepened the work. And so I just wanted to I wanted to flag those, that for me those divides are a little bit worrying, but it all comes down to how you're defining research, I suppose, and how you're defining knowledge and how you're defining the co-construction of knowledge. Thank you, Almaine, for giving me that space.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie. Tuletu, do you have any last commentary before we move to the next speaker?
No. I think Dr. Leslie has covered almost all when it comes to research. No, it's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
On that note, thank you, Mr. Matiso. It's always an honor and a privilege to work with you. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me an absolute honor and a privilege to introduce to you the next speaker. I am quite humbled by the program if you look at the voices that we have available here. And I must say that I've been practicing how to pronounce a surname. So, Nontutuzelo, I hope I get that right. She is an amazing woman. I'll call her a phenomenal woman. Her name is Nontutuzelo Maginxa. I'm not sure if that is right. However, she's known to us as Nontutu. And that's how we referred to her. She has worked as a tire builder, ladies and gentlemen, at Continental Tires for 10 years. She is currently a lecturer within our TVET colleges, in particular PE College at the Ikea campus. As part of her education trajectory and the work that she's done before, she has a BA degree majoring in psychology and sociology from the university, Nelson Mandela University. Also, she holds a postgraduate certificate in education from the same institution. She has honors in both psychology and in education. And importantly, she's a member of the TVET Research Working Group for the Research Chair, Youth Unemployment, Employability and Empowerment. But interestingly as well, she is a master's student with a focus of lecturers' experiences of students with barriers to learning in TVET colleges. With that, I introduce to you my colleague and dear friend, Nontutu. Thank you, Nontutu.
Thank you so much, Almaine, for introducing me. Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for introducing me like that. It is a pleasure to be joining this webinar series today. We've been working so hard as a team to make this day a success. I remember later the other day when we were having a meeting and we said, oh, the 11th of September. But this is the day that we are here together, and I'm so thankful that I'm part of this conversation today. Now, as a lecturer at PE College, during the time when we were told that we will be returning to the classroom, we had mixed feelings. This is due to the fact that we didn't know for sure whether we will be receiving students or not. And the other thing is that, you know, we had so many challenges as the TVET sector, even before the pandemic. Okay, now we find ourselves in this situation. And the first thing that came to our minds was that, how are we going to manage the core business, which is teaching and learning during this pandemic? The inequalities were visible during the lockdown. We could see the haves and the not haves. And for sure, our students belong to this side of the not haves or the have-nots, okay? We developed groups even before the pandemic. We developed WhatsApp groups so as to make teaching and learning efficient for us and the students. However, there was a problem. The problem was that most of our students are coming from the rural areas. And we know the situation within the rural areas. You know, there were network problems, and some of our students didn't have cell phones. You know, they didn't have the equipment in order to make teaching and learning effective. So now that was a problem. It became a problem to make teaching and learning accessible to the students. And not only that, we are experiencing challenges as the TVET sector. And one of them is to be regarded as a second choice. We were not given recognition. Remember during that time of lockdown, when, you know, the plans were made about returning back to campuses or to schools, people were always focusing on schools. This is what should happen in schools. This is what should happen in universities. But they were so quiet about the TVET sector. And I was wondering, do people know about the TVET sector? Do they know that we even exist? That was the problem that I have during the lockdown. So it was, that thing demonstrated that really the TVET sector is not recognized. Okay, so those were the things that were making the lockdown, those were the things that were making us, you know, feel so inferior as the TVET sector, because we were not given any recognition. People were so quiet about the TVET sector. And I was wondering, what was my student thinking about this, you know, when they heard that there were programs that were meant for the students at schools and not within the TVET sector. Even now, if you can go to the news or to these media platforms, people are talking about the catch-up plan for the grade 12s, the catch-up plan for the schools. Nothing is said about the TVET sector. So those were the inequalities that were visible during the lockdown, and even today, those things are still visible. Now, as the TVET sector, even before the pandemic, we were experiencing poor attendance. It's even worse now that there is this pandemic. Students haven't returned to campus. We understand that some of them, you know, are experiencing problems. Maybe they have lost their loved ones and they are unable to cope. But this thing of poor attendance is still a challenge within the TVET sector. And not only that, the lack of resources. The lack of resources is still a challenge within the TVET sector. Number one, I just want to mention, people were talking here about supporting students with disabilities. I'm happy that Mr. Matizo is here because we started a disability forum, I think it was 2 years or 3 years ago. In our college, we had a disability forum, and I was part of that disability forum, which was championed by Mr. Matizo. We tried to establish something that will assist the students and also the staff with disabilities, but the problem we had was resources. Even today, we are still experiencing challenges regarding the resources and, you know, getting assistive devices for students who are disabled. So that is the challenge that we have. Resources, supports for students with disabilities, and for staff with disabilities. Another challenge that we have is that of career guidance. Career guidance is still lacking within the TVET sector and needs to be improved. Why am I saying that? You'll find out when students come here within the TVET sector, they come not knowing what to do. They don't know, or they are not sure about the courses that they want to enroll for. And some, they just enroll for courses accidentally, and which becomes a problem because you'll find out this student has got a grade 12 and is doing NCV. Come April, that student is nowhere to be found. That student is either inmated or has dropped out, which means that this career guidance needs to be improved and students should be informed about the courses that the TVET colleges are offering before they enroll. And not only that, I heard people talking about will. Will is a real problem within the TVET sector. And now I'm wondering how much more is it gonna be during this pandemic? Because the first thing about will, students have to go to the workplace in order to be exposed and also for experiences purposes. But now I'm worried about the fact that, you know, the companies are retrenching and the fact that, you know, there's a certain number of people that have to be in a plant. I think we have to look at this thing of will, work integrated learning, and see what is it that you can do when things are normal or when we are back in level 1 so that our students can get exposure. I fully agree with those people who are saying we should have invited people with, you know, people from the industries. But next time, we have noted that, and next time, definitely we will try and invite them. Another thing that I want to raise is the issue of modifications and restructuring and, you know, the rethinking about the TVET sector. I think it is important for us going forward that we rethink and restructure the TVET sector. We need ongoing support for lecturers and also provision of psychosocial support for students and lecturers. This pandemic has taught us a lot of things, and we have to move with times. In closing, I want to mention that there is no way that 2021, we will be still welcoming walk-ins. There's no way. Starting from today, I think that it is imperative that we introduce online application for those colleges who haven't started online application. Then we know that the students will just come for PACE test and for registration, so as to reduce the, you know, the usage of paper, you know. So another thing that I want to mention before I close is that it's very important that resources are available. so that teaching and learning can go and run smoothly. And I want to thank you. I see that I'm running out of time. I want to thank you, and we will continue in our webinar series that we will have again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sis Ntutu. It is only when we are able to duplicate ourselves that we can pat ourselves at the back and say we are leaders. It's only when we can produce more leaders that we can say we are doing well. Thank you very much, Sisi. I think now we are coming up to engagements, questions.
Yes, later I've checked the chat box. There aren't any much commentary, but there is a cry for internships, because throughout the pandemic and when we were under lockdown and students were not allowed to come to college, what has happened is that there was no work integrated learning that took place as well. So there is this requirement then cry from some of the participants here that there are students who did not do any internships. So how can we assist them? Is there any help available? Is there any internships coming up now? That's one of the questions that has been raised in the chat box as well. But I'd quickly like Ms. Ntutu has mentioned a couple of things that's quite important. And I do think we just need to reflect on that quickly, is the fact of student attendance generally is a challenge in TVET sector, but now with the pandemic, it is a challenge. I want to link this to what our DDG has said this morning, that we are not going to trim or review the curriculum for the NCV students or for any of our students in the sector, but that we are cutting short on the time frames for trimester and semesters. But your NCV students must write their full curriculum at the end of the year.
Yes.
But if you listen to what she said, so now we have a challenge. We need to look how then we engage with that. That's something important that stood out for me in terms of what she's been saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just to give, I think there was Mahlatse. There was Mahlatse who just wanted to say something. Mahlatse, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much. Let's give it to you.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. And what I actually wanted to say is more of a comment. And first, I would like to thank the recent speaker, is No Tutizelo, yeah, for actually being able to address something that I thought maybe was okay, thank you. Yes, I wanted to say thank you to No Tutizelo for actually highlighting all the barriers and kind of challenges that these students are actually experiencing. I think for the whole day, I've been waiting to hear something like what she was saying, like getting to real challenges. We are sitting here, we don't want to know about the success stories mostly. We want to know about the challenges and what are we doing to address and cater for those challenges. And she said a lot of points that make sense. And in saying that, I think maybe, probably, in a way, in my own belief, it's my own view, that when she talks about the online kind of a platform where students can apply, that is actually emphasizing on another barrier, and it's a challenge on its own, especially if we take into account students that transition from high school to colleges and universities. Those students are still suffering from, like, the under-resourced that you were talking about. They're still within those lines. They don't have cellular phones, computers. They don't have enough support, if I would say. They don't have enough support from their schools on its own, and then making these colleges not accessible to them like the universities are already doing is actually another challenge for them. Obviously, for students that are from privileged families, I would say, this is a simple thing to do. They are online every day. They know how these online platforms work. But what are we saying when we are saying we are trying to move forward, looking at technology, but not addressing what is underlying? These are the challenges that are underlying. We don't see them when we are here. If I compare myself to someone who's at home, I would say someone who's in the villages in Limpopo, they're lazy, they can't apply. But if I go back, like if I reflect back to where I started, I know I would be in the same position. Now I'm able to see things as simple because I have been given the opportunities and the resources are here for me to utilize. Then it becomes simple to actually say something without even putting yourself into the shoes of the marginalized. So otherwise, in trying to address a challenge, we must look at the way that we address challenges. When we are saying, let's go to online platform.
Mashlati, can I come in there quickly, darling? Thank you so much for your commentary. I hear what you say. You're speaking about the resources that's available and that's not available. This is a very important point from both lecturers and also then from the students. And I sorry that I have to cut you short, man. We are time is of importance here. Thank you for that comments, and what it boils down to is the realities that we face on the ground in the TVET sector. And I like what you said, we don't want to paint a nice picture and just talk. We want to have implementation and to see what can come from this. Tuleto, I think I would like to close this section, but based on what she has said now, and I've looked at Professor Papier's comments in the commentary box, I'm not sure, should we give her maybe just a space to comment quickly?
That's just for 2 minutes, fine.
Just for 2 minutes. Professor Papier? Tabo, can you unmute Professor Papier, please?
Good day, madam. No, I don't want to take up time of others in the session.
Are you fine? You don't want to comment in terms of the lecturers and the resourcing? You've been doing a lot of research for many years in terms of lecturer capacitation.
Yes, and I mean, I really think that lecturers have extended themselves in this time, and they've really pulled out a lot of the stops. I have also a number of lecturers doing postgraduate studies and just doing a go around with them at the start of the lockdown to see how prepared they felt. It was very clear that people were very anxious about their students, how their students were going to cope. Even what messages are limited in the way you can reach people, and it's easy for students who are struggling to actually fall below the radar. So yes, I think Sis Nontutu's input was very, very real and honest, and I think those are some of the issues that this seminar series will pick up and will discuss and get the success stories and the difficult, the hardship stories. They are out there, So yeah, sorry, I know that you've pressed the time.
Thanks, Prof. Thank you so
Thank
much.
You very much. Thank you very much, Prof.
The next speaker.
Thank you very much. Just for a second, just to go back to that Matlatse. In terms of colleagues, in fact, in the whole platform, I think in terms of college programs, nothing is going to change. Internships are still going to continue. Our programs are still going to continue. I think what is most important is, as we said earlier on, that we want to change every workplace into a training space. Now we are saying, how do we take the work environment into the students' room or into the students' home? That's what now we have to think of as planners and innovators. No, thank you very much. Let me quickly now introduce our last speaker. We are coming closer now to the end of our webinar. I'm going to introduce here a student who is Mr. Tato Khetse, who is a graduate and a former SRC president at Taletso TVET College. Mr. Khetse has also served as SAFETA NEC member. SAFETA, for all those that don't know SAFETA, SAFETA stands for South African Further Education and Training Student Association. We are pleased to have this vibrant student to represent all our student body. He is currently involved in the national task team as one of the national task team member of SAFETA. Mr. Tato Khetse, let me give it over to you. I'm sorry if I pronounce your word incorrectly. Over to you, my brother. Are you there? Is he still there? Tato? Mr. Khetse? Are you still there? Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you
I'm
so
so
much.
glad
I
I'm
saw
here.
you. Yeah. Over to you, my brother. Shoot. Yes, can you try again? We can't hear you. Mr. Khetse? I think we have some connection challenges that side.
Tuletu.
Hi.
We do have another student on standby. I do not know if you want us to bring the other student in at this time, or are we going to wait for him?
I
just want to see if that student is
Oh man, he has really prepared to.
I know, I've seen
to
his work.
engage here, and I would really love if he can come back. Mr. Tato?
We need the student voice here.
Mr. Tato? Are you there? Okay, in the interest of time, I think let's quickly use our backup. We will see if she's able to come back, and then we will see how to manage this. Are we able to get his colleague? Yeah, his colleague.
Your backup is Ronay. The student is a student from East Cape Midlands TVET College.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my sister. Let's hear the voice of a student. Can you quickly, Almay, just quickly introduce her? Just brief and short. So that we know who is the student.
Yes, I'm trying to unmute myself.
Thank you, Almay.
This is a student from East Cape Midlands TVET College. It was the first one that we could get hold of as a backup. Ronay is a legal secretary student that started with N4 up until N6 now. So she just finished the last exam this week. And we are interested to hear from her. Ronay, if you can keep it short and to the point, please, we'll appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Over to you, my sister.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you very much. It is quite an honor to be part of this webinar in an unfortunate situation. What I would really like to say, what I loved, what Matlatsi said, and as well, Sis Nontutu, they were really touching on the very relevant problems that is evident in the TVET sector. Even you, Ms. Nutula, pardon if I pronounce that incorrectly, whereas we are talking about WORL as well as WORL work integrated learning and bringing the work environment to the classroom. In my experience as a student, it was very evident, especially in the business field that we are studying as a legal secretary student. It is very much more theory, even though we are doing our theory before we do our practical. But it's evident that us as students, we don't even know how to work a copy machine. I have to wait a full 18 months in order for us to know how to work it. I can say in my experience in my class that we don't even know how to do minutes. So practical and theory in the classroom, if we can just marry that together, it will really help us even to thrive in the work environment. Because we are looking at the advertisements that is shown, the experience that we need, even though we are first entry level students, some experience is crucial, especially knowing how to do basic minutes and how to making a copy. Secondly, the syllabus, it has become very evident that it is outdated. As I was saying, I'm in the business field. We are using, especially in our computer subjects, we are using syllabus that is so outdated. We haven't even really touched on Pastel. It's even Excel. We don't do those kind of things, and I was fortunate enough to be able to can as well be part of the work environment while I was busy studying. And PowerPoints, those are crucial things that you need to know in order to transition from student to the workplace, especially because we are in the skills development sector. We have skills that we are developing, so give us the content so that we can use the skills and even thrive within the working sector and the working environment. Pertaining to the positioning of...
Sorry to interrupt. Do you want to hold your device closer to you? Because it's giving us a bad feedback. Or maybe if you don't mind, you can just unplug it from your device, your headset, and you talk through your phone.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Better, much better.
Better. Thank you so much.
Okay, so as I was saying about the outdated content, give us as students something that we can really build on, which will take us far in the working environment. Pertaining to the positioning of the COVID-19, what we have had a huge challenge with was resources in terms of devices. On campus, we have got no facilities that help us to build a very good foundation, such as laptops and access to internet devices to assist students in assignments and doing research, especially because our textbooks are very one-dimensional. Internet access and labs on campus will be very advantageous to gaining perspective from different aspects and different levels into our field of studying. And especially lastly, if I can just speak on work-based exposure, let us go into an industry where you want to give us exposure in relating to our field that we are studying in, relating to our course. We've had that we as legal secretary students are working as cashiers in Edgar's or at Markham's. We didn't understand how that would, yes, we understand, we get a feel for the culture, the dynamics in the workplace, but the content that we do there it doesn't relate to our field of expertise. And then NSFAS, especially with the 80% attendance that we need to have, NSFAS has been very delayed in its processes with paying out for students, especially for transport as well as accommodation. And the support on campus hasn't been very evident pertaining to supporting us in communicating with us as students, how far is NSFAS and all that. So communication to students is vitally important, which will also give us a comfort in order to know that our institution and the TVET sector has got our back during this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Renee. Tulitu, can I hand over to you?
Well, thank you so much, Almi. Oh, thank you very much, Renee. That was really a mouthful, and that was just giving an honest and a practical a voice of the student on the ground. Let's quickly just check in terms of questions, comments, what's in there so that we don't close people who would love to ask.
Mr. Mathisu mentioned that he was very happy to hear a student's voice because this is about students. Ultimately, it's about the student, and he was pleased to know that we have the voice, to hear the voice of the student here. Is there maybe, is Tato not available, maybe just as a comment that he wants to come in as a commentary?
I don't see him yet.
Ah, that's such a pity, man.
Yeah.
I can see the hand from Lofuno.
Is there a hand from Nomfuna? Nomfuna, can you unmute Nomfuna quickly?
Hello, it's Nomfuna.
Oh.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. We wanted to find out how are the applications going to be done for TVET currently, because we're still under lockdown restrictions.
Lofuna, can you repeat your question, please, dear? You were breaking up during that time.
Sorry, is it clear now?
Yes, it is clear. It is clear.
Hello?
Lofuna?
Hello?
Can I, because I managed to catch the question.
We just wanted to inquire, how are the TVET applications going to get conducted? Because usually they're paper-based.
We get the question. The question
Yes.
is, thank you, Lofuna, how are the TVET?
I was saying applications for TVET, are they going to be online now, or are they going to continue being paper-based?
Okay, thank you, Lofuna.
Maybe let me try to answer Lufuno quickly, because in terms of the 2021 registration, I think as a sector we have agreed that we will be only doing online applications during this time, and I think going forward we will only be doing online applications. It's only after the application period, when everything is done, whereby there will be a verification process where you will have to bring your paper or your papers, your documents. Thank you so much, Lufuno. That was a good question. Maybe let me also quickly touch on the few things that were kind of raised there as challenges. That is the availability of resources, your laptops, as well as the relevance of workplace experience. I think there was also something around the NSFAS. I think if we can go back to the presentation by our acting DDG, she did also mention that we are in a process of buying resources and laptops for our students. I think NSFAS is in this big drive whereby we will be resourcing our students to make it a point that they are able to participate in the new normal, where we are going to do remote lessons. So I think that one, in terms of laptops, and I also think there is a project that is dealing with gadgets. It's just that I may not show where exactly that project is, but it is on the line, it's coming. And I also think that will also comfort Mahlatse in terms of what she was also raising there. Yeah.
There's a question here from Salim Akuchi that asks that we must clarify from the student the point about wall markings, etc. Was the point that this is their destination, or that this is where they get their wall? So he wants to know what was the point that the student made about the work integrated learning. If we can maybe give the student just an opportunity to respond, Thabo, then we can close the session as well.
Yeah.
Renee, there's a question from Salim. Did you hear the question or see the question?
Can you repeat the question, please?
The question is, I'll read it to you. Now I'm looking for Thabo. Can we maybe not unmute Salim and then you can ask the question to Renee, please?
Everyone is unmuted.
Salim?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You can post the
Okay.
question to the student.
Okay, just a quick one. I know people need to leave. Just clarification about that whole issue of experience at Markham's and that kind of place at Dion or whatever you. Was that about that's the place they go to after training? I mean, that's one of the workplaces that they get to, or is that part of their workplace integrated learning as legal secretaries? Thanks.
So just to answer your question, during your qualification, during your course, there is an opportunity for students to be part of the WBE, which is work-based exposure. So my concern is, and the point that I'm just raising is that in this, let us, especially different kinds of students in their different fields that they are studying towards, when we expose them to the work environment, let it be in the field of expertise that they are studying towards, and not just to give them a place at work.
Okay, fine, thanks. I can take that further up with you privately. I mean, there's an issue around relevant workplace integrated learning, and just wanted to capture that somehow.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I think we have tried to cover some questions and comments, but before, yes, Alme?
Can we maybe close this session? Because I think we've covered all the questions now.
Yes.
But I see Tatu is here, and then when Tatu has just given a comment, Tatu, we're just going to give you a comment because we couldn't get hold of you because of time. And then if you then can do your closing remarks to later, I don't know if that's okay with you.
It's fine.
Are you okay?
Let's give it to Tato then.
Tabo, can you unmute Tato, please?
Yes, everyone is unmuted. Also, I think Lysandra needed to say something also.
Okay, let me see, Lysandra.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I've had my hand up. It must be tired by now.
Apologies, Lysandra.
It's okay. So I've got two questions. One is from the previous presentation that was made. I previously submitted a question on the comments part, but it was not seen. So that question is relating to the issues of including companies and including them in our conversations with the TVET and their requirements. So I work for the Food Bev CETA, and my experience with the companies, they have complaints around the curriculum that is outdated of TVET colleges. And I just wanted your point of view on that specific point, because it's something that comes up a lot when we engage with them as far as the employment of students that come from TVET colleges after they finish their trainings. And then the second one is relating to the online application process of TVET colleges. So won't that close off a few of the rural students who don't have infrastructure or access to internet or cell phones that are updated for them to be able to apply? Thank you.
Okay, all right. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lisanda. The main aim of inviting CETAs was to make it a point that at least we can hear the voice of the industry through you. Thank you so much that now it is happening. Let me just quickly try to touch base in terms of what you are raising. I think from this platform, we've learned that over and above industry being represented by CETAs, we need to involve key companies that we work with. And I think in the next platform going forward, we will surely do that. And then in terms of the curriculum, to be honest with you, I think I like the statement by Aruna that was saying that every disaster brings an opportunity. And I think the wave that we are in gives us no choice, not anymore, to make it a point that we upscale and we upgrade even the curriculum that we are offering as TVET colleges. As we sit here, there are some lots of debates that are happening in terms of how do we make it a point that in our program offerings, we make it a point that the integration of will itself is effectively managed and is administered. That is why you will find that in some cases, there will be irrelevance when it comes to the experience that these learners are getting. It is all pointing out to the fact that we need to tighten up our screws in terms of administration and management of the work integrated learning. All those things now are in our face. And I think as the sector, we are on our boards now to make it a point that we get the ball rolling. You also talked about the online application, which may not include those learners that are coming from the rural space. What we have done is to make it a point that as much as it is an online application, we are making resources within our institutions, resource centers, that where a learner can come and do the application online in areas where they don't have those gadgets for now. So we have managed to make it a point that at the end of the day, we are doing away with the old paper application process. It will be online, and we have catered for those who may not have facilities to make it a point that we have got resource centers well equipped with computers and internet to make it a point that they do their online applications online, regardless if they are doing it at home or they come to our institutions, but it will be done online, and we'll make it a point that we include everyone that we work with. We will upgrade, because it's something new to us, this thing of being compulsory that we do online application. So I think as the process unfolds, we will upgrade our systems. I think the acting DTG did talk to the fact that there were initially about 10 colleges that had learner management systems, but because of this pandemic, we were pushed. I think he mentioned to say that it's about 50% now of the colleges that have got fully running effectively, effective running learner management systems in place. And the number is growing for sure. So applications are open now for all colleges. I think the closing date is the 30th of September. And we are seeing the trend, they are coming in. So it means that there is ground that we are covering on that space. So thank you very much. I am not sure if there are any other questions. Let me give it to Tato for 2 minutes so that I can then close. Tato, Mr. Keze? Mr. Keze, can you please just 2 minutes? Let's chip in for 2 minutes. I give over to you now before I close.
Hi.
Yes, Mr. Tato? I think we have a problem.
It looks like he cannot hear us. Maybe then it's unfortunate that he's having such challenges. Maybe then draw this to a close, Toledo, please.
Yeah, I think we have to. Colleagues, thank you very much. You know, it was for the first time that we open up a platform like this where you have got individuals from the level of a DDG to a level of a student under one roof, having to engage all of us. I think the engagements were fantastic. Now we know what we are sitting with. We know that we must roll our sleeves and make it a point that we make a student life in the TVET college fit for the time. So in my vote of thanks, I want to address the acting DDG for TVET, Ms. Aruna Singh, in her absence, the chair of the Youth Unemployment, Employability and Empowerment at Nelson Mandela, Dr. Powell, and your team, and all the esteemed participants that are here. You know, it was a long list. I cannot call one by one. All of you, I really tender a vote of thanks to you. It is my privilege and pleasure to propose this vote of thanks on behalf of the Eastern Cape TVET College Roundtable, and extend a hearty vote of thanks to all the panelists, the participants and attendees for taking time out of very busy schedules to join and grace this webinar with your presence. I would also like to extend some of big thank yous to our partners. I know the sitters are here, the universities are here, University of Nottingham all the way to the DHET and to our TVET colleges that are here. My principals are here and I'm just excited. Mamu Palfo, I've seen you there. Thank you so much, colleagues. You know, when we are supported by you, we really feel that we are being led in the sector. Thank you so much for making this webinar a successful engagement platform for your various contributions. I must mention our deep, sincere and appreciation for the following individuals, specifically just to highlight Dr. Leslie Powell for your insightful opening remarks. Really have set this platform for us to take off our jackets and to know that we have to engage. Ms. Aruna Singh for providing the background of the TVET sector and highlighting implications of COVID-19 during and post the pandemic. Mr. Kaya Matiso, my brother, my father, my colleague, my everything. Thank you so much for giving us even an agenda for action. Ms. Ndutu, our colleague, our sister, thank you so much. You are so excellent. Thank you for giving us such an insightful and a practical speech. I especially liked to hear the student voice. Thank you so much, Renee. And thank you so much also to you, Mr. Kete. I know that you were prepared to talk to us in this platform. Thank you guys for giving us such perspective on the TVET college students. Above all, I thank my co-moderator and my sister, Almin Horn. Thank you so much, my sister, for such a dynamic character and assistance in co-moderating throughout this. My brother Francis, there's nothing that could happen without you. Thank you so much, colleagues. My college principals, deputy principals, HODs, lecturers, students, everyone who is here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I love you all, colleagues. See you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Over to you, Francis.
Thank you to you, Tulet, too. Thank you for the wonderful platform that we have created. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my sister. Unmute, my brother Francis, we can't hear you. My brother Francis, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now, Sister?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, so I guess
Ikala, I could see you there. Thank you so much, Ikala. King Inside, KSD, I see all of you.
Yes. I just
East Cape Midlands, Ingwe. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks, everyone, and bye.
Bye.